Okay, I'm going to start with some things you probably already know, and then move really quickly to some things you might not. Ta-Nehisi Coates. I'm doing it, because last time you were here, you did not get a proper introduction from me, so I'm going to make up for it. But it won't be long, I swear. Okay, so Ta-Nehisi Coates is the author of The Beautiful Struggle and Between the World and Me, which won the Kirkus Prize for Nonfiction and the National Book Award in 2015. He also received the George Polk Award for Commentary, the Harriet Beecher Stowe Center Prize for Writing to Advance Social Justice, 2016 Penn Diamondstein Spielvogel Award for the Art of the Essay, and a MacArthur Genius Award. He's a former staff writer for The Village Voice and Time Magazine, and currently senior editor and national correspondent for The Atlantic. In addition to his award-winning books, he's contributed to the New York Times and has been praised for his influential Atlantic articles, The Case for Reparations, and more recently, My President Was Black. Unless you've been living under a rock the past several months or were daydreaming when Peter was just up here, you probably know Ta-Nehisi's been writing the current run of Marvel's Black Panther comic. And many readers will be surprised, I think, when they discover how Ta-Nehisi has developed the character T'Challa for the forthcoming Black Panther and the crew. He is totally killing it. You might not know Ta-Nehisi's writing a novel as well, part of which he read last month to an audience at the Association of Writers and Writing Programs Conference in Washington, D.C. No genre seems off limits to him. It might surprise you to know, however, Ta-Nehisi once wrote poetry. In at least one interview, he said the poetry he wrote as a young college student was awful. But I know firsthand that that's not true. I wouldn't dare embarrass him by revealing the names of his old poems, or God forbid, or read one of them to his very large audience. I know you would never talk to me if I did that. But I will say his poems were the kinds of poems many other young poets on the scene of open mics and bookstore and campus readings back then wanted to write, which is to say they wanted to be the best. When I recently asked Ta-Nehisi if he'd ever write more poems, he said something like, the poetry finds its way to other places. And I was reminded of two really magnificent moments in his work, one from his memoir, Beautiful Struggle, and the other from Between the World and Me. In the first, he describes his adolescent home on Barrington Road in Maryland, where he and his younger brother, Menelik, the last of the siblings still living at home, reside. Siblings who've left the nest to visit on the weekends, and Ta-Nehisi acknowledges that these were the years when I knew 6 brothers and sisters were a gorgeous gift. In 3 short paragraphs, Ta-Nehisi captures his family's inner workings with the same assuredness that his mother pulls Menelik close and his father takes photographs until, as Ta-Nehisi notes, those moments were encased in amber. The second moment appears in the final chapter of Between the World and Me, devoted entirely to Dr. Mabel Jones. It's a moving portrayal of a highly intelligent, Louisiana-born, precocious child turned audacious radiologist who loved her 2 children, who tragically lost her son, Prince. She was composed, Ta-Nehisi writes, given the subject of our conversation, and for most of the visit, I struggled to separate how she actually felt from what I felt she must be feeling. This acknowledged struggle is present in much of Ta-Nehisi's work, including The Black Panther, which soars with poetic nods to Henry Dumas, Amiri Baraka, and Carolyn Forche. I realize I'm showing my bias here, seeing the world through poetry-tinted glasses. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say Ta-Nehisi is largely responsible for my becoming a poet. Long before he invited me to write for Marvel, he literally mailed my application to the first Kali Khan retreat for African American poets, which put me on a path I could never have imagined for my own writing life. the voice I hear today when reading beloved works by Sonia Sanchez, Lucille Clifton, and Robert Hayden. Because in addition to reading what seemed like every intellectual writer in the Howard Library, he spent hours poring over poetry and often recommended or read those poems to me. It's true. Ta-Nehisi has said he didn't trust the applause at open mics back then. He wanted to be as good as or better than the poets he was reading. How cool would it be if every open mic reader had that say? I'd say the applause wasn't wrong, but people gave too little thought to why Ta-Nehisi's work was so incredible. All the muscle behind the language, the isolation, discipline, strangeness, and genuine joy of reading, studying, and writing formed very early in his life is there. He said in interviews that he braced himself for failure, but as far as success was concerned, he was completely unprepared. There's no comparison really, but nothing could have prepared me for the thrill of introducing him tonight. So please join me in welcoming Ta-Nehisi.
Put it on the payroll. Take her around with me. Intro like that. That is, oof. That's why I feel Burt Miller introduction, so that was up there. Yona, so I'm a little overwhelmed. I've known Yona for a really, really long time. And she was, I just told her I was going to embarrass her tonight, so I'm going to do so. It's rare. Poetry is one of these things. It attracts people who, and I don't know why this is, but they think poetry is easy. And they want to talk about their feelings. And for some reason, poetry is the place where people just go, you know what I mean, to very easily talk about their feelings. Most of that poetry shouldn't be shared with anyone. Including most of the poetry I wrote. But there's a lot of that when you're in college. There's a lot of that, among, folks in college and undergrads. And, somebody, has broken your heart, and why did he treat me this way? Or why did she do this? And why did I, catch her doing that? And I'm gonna write a poem. And it just makes some of the worst poetry. And I've heard a lot of that when I was, a student at Howard University. And I knew it was bad then. And I think one of the most frustrating things about being young is there's the moment you recognize it's bad, and then you try to do something else. And I'm talking about myself right now. You try to do something, you can't. Like, you know the difference between bad and good, but it's like everything you write feels bad. And it's rare that, you know what I mean? Because you listen to everybody else around you and you're like, they're bad too. I'm better than them, but they're bad. And then every once in a while you meet somebody and it's like, this person is not bad. And you're like 18 years old, as I was, and you think, this person has no right to be this good. And that was how I came in contact with Yona. I mean, Yona is just oozing with talent. I mean, it was intimidating and incredible. I don't think I would say it like that, but it was like, actually intimidating. She had at a very, very young age a control, over words that most people just did not have, a skepticism of sentimentalism. And at the same time, not, a kind of a cynicism, which is the other way people go. I say all that to say that we spent a lot of time together, just going back and forth about, what she was reading, what I was reading. I was telling you, I recently heard Sonia Sanchez, read this piece called Poem in 30, and it blew me away. And Yona, when I told Yona about it, she reminded me that I had read that to her. I had been blown away 20 years ago. I say that we spent a lot of time talking about craft, man. And I was lucky, along with Yona, to have other people around me, who were just really, really obsessed with, just the idea of craft. How many writers do I have here? Okay, that's good, because I'm talking to y'all. And the rest of you guys, y'all gonna audit this class. Because this is for writers, because it's really, 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 really important. Cultivate a group around you of people who push you. Cultivate that. Talk to people about what you're reading and think like over and I would see a poem and I would like spend weeks trying to figure out why it was good, why it made me feel a certain way, why is this organization of words make me feel a certain way. And to have a group, as I did, at that age, I'm talking, 18 years old, at that age, to talk, about that sort of thing is just a huge, huge deal and a huge advantage. And you will find yourself maybe 20 years later, or more, if we're being honest about our age, or more, and in a place that you never, ever could imagine. The seat of anything I have done as a writer begins all those years ago at Howard University with Yona Harvey. So thank you, much appreciated for that introduction. One of the things that I was not particularly good at that age as a writer was I didn't understand how much failure was a part of writing. It was a part of the writing process. I had not quite reconciled myself to that. I remember thinking as a young writer, the better I would get at writing, the easier writing would become. That was like my notion of getting better. And in fact, the reverse actually happened. You get better and it actually becomes harder, because you start to recognize what's good. And as you push yourself to get there, you really realize how difficult it was. Yona mentioned that I had stopped writing poetry at a young age, and one of my great regrets was I got to a point where I just felt like I couldn't do it. Like I was very clear on what it took to become a great poet, and something in my mind said this is a difficult, a really, really, really hard road. And in addition to that, poets don't make much money. That's a horrible reason to do anything. Like, money's a bad, bad reason, you know what I mean? But it was like, I felt like not only would I not be particularly good at this, I didn't even know how I was going to live. I didn't know how I was going to, I wasn't a great student, I didn't know how I was going to graduate from school, get an MFA, or do anything. And so I kind of turned to other forms, and at that point to journalism and to essays, really, just out of kind of like feeling like I can't, I don't have, what it takes to do this, because in my mind, it was the most difficult form of writing, period, bar none. But the thing is, I'm very grateful for that time I spent in those first couple of years, trying to, early in my career, trying to become a poet, because I absorbed lessons, serious lessons about, the essence of writing. Poetry is, the essential idea of trying to control words on the page, trying to say as little as possible, and at the same time get the maximum emotional impact, make people feel it. That never leaves you. You have to do that in every form of writing. I always tell people in my journalism, I'm going to get to the reading this. In my journalism, I might be making a case about somebody or about something, but it's not enough for me to logically be right. On some emotional level, you got to feel it. You can't put down a piece and say, that was logically correct. And then walk away. You want people to feel it. You want them to be haunted by it, to think about it, to start crying, to talk to their spouse about it. That feeling, in my world, in nonfiction and in journalism, it's rare that people try to do that in the way that poets try to do that. As Yona mentioned, I'm moving into a different form. And actually, I've been moving into a different form for a while. I have been writing a novel since 2009. And it just was like every year something gets in the way. Like I was writing and then, I don't know, Between the World and Me got in the way, actually. It really got in the way. I was like, I gotta write this so I can get back to my novel. And then Between the World and Me became this thing, and it was like, I'm gonna play poor little rich kid right now. And then somebody's like, why don't you write some comic books? I'm like, I write comic books. But I've been trying to get back to this thing. And I have been getting back to this thing, and every, once in a while, I've been back to it. I'm gonna tell you a story, or part of the story. And it's about a young man, a girl he's in love with, and the girl's mother. And they want to run away from slavery. They want to get out. The guy's in a kind of a difficult position. His father is actually the master on the slave plantation. His brother has recently died under very suspicious circumstances. It's strongly suspected that the son, or suspected by some people, that the son might be responsible for that. But he kind of has some protection given who his father is. And he wants to get out. He wants to get out because he's scared people are going to eventually find out what he did. The girl he loves wants to get out because she's basically in a position where another slave master, there's no other way to put this, in sexual slavery with this other slave master. She just can't imagine herself continuing that way. And the girl's mother wants to get out because she knows how it ends. And she wants better for her daughter. The first part of this piece is a conversation between Hiram and Sophia, who he's in love with. He's telling this story to a young lady by the name of Caroline, and I won't tell you his relationship to Caroline because that'll confuse you even more. Second part of the conversation is Hiram talking to the mother about why they decided to escape. Back at the farm, I was called up to the big house by my father. I was told to escort Sophia over to Nathaniel Walker's place the next morning. The duty was repugnant to me, as you should imagine. But I dared not betray any feeling. And if I was given labor, perhaps it meant that I had settled all suspicion and would live as though that could ever be enough. The old ambitions still worked upon me. A pilfered inheritance drove my fugitive heart, and fear of Maynard's ghost put a fire under my feet. Once, I thought I would die here. It came to me in my youth. I slid before the large wardrobe dressing my master, who was my brother, in all his heaping garments. The shirt, the waistcoat, the vest, the black society hat. He smiled upon me in a total benevolence remark that this too should be my bounty after a season of wear, and I, standing there, was overcome in glory and despair. I knew what lay out beyond the big house, the hollering teams of slaves, the angry lamb, the ox. And two, I knew what waited for me within. My life would be relative leisure, but it would not be my home. Splendid slavery was a splinter in my mind. My brother was dead. I was to blame. The splinter was now a stake. I must get out. I must be free. How? The next morning I rose early. The spring was over the country in full measure. I, Hiram Walker, carried the cares of an entire age, and at my side in my father's chase with some other Tennessee pacer was Sophia, who too carried some unspoken burden. Her grace was not gone, but in her downcast eyes I saw that something was upon her. Perhaps it was a sickness still, or perhaps she did not want me to see her like this, moments before the fulfillment of her duties. Or perhaps my presence made her aware of all we could never be. No, I was a fool. I knew nothing of women, and I knew nothing of you. Sophia had come to Nathaniel by the path of gluttony, which is native to slavers. I knew the journey well, for it was the path which made me. As a girl, Sophia was given as a playmate to Helen Briggs, and then in the later years, she lived as her maid. Helen was wedded to the estimable quality of all quality, Nathaniel Walker. A year after their wedding, Sophia was sent to the farm to live with her mother. There were orders with her. She was not to be worked, and she should not be touched by any man. The offender must answer to Nathaniel Walker's justice. That was the tradition. My own mother had been sent up in the same fashion, and from such gluttony was I born. So I was in connection with Sophia in some particular way, which I then did not consider, but I wanted her to know that I felt her as no man could. I tell you, I knew nothing of women. I wanted her to see my heart and on its alleged bounty, love me. Terribly quiet this morning, I said. Something on your mind? What you think, she said. I think it's so. Don't matter much either way, she said. Anyways, I'm suspecting you would not want to hear it. How about I be the judge of that, I said. Well, the fact of it is that I'm nagged by a few things which are in all relation to each other. Perhaps I should try you with the one that would be the least troubling for you. Why don't you give me the most trouble? I took you for a man looking to lend an ear, she said. Not one on the farm gossip. A helping hand should be pure, Hiram, or it ain't no help at all. My apologies, I said, I'm yours. You may speak upon whatever you want. Me and Helen, we were friends, you know, she said. I loved her as I should think you loved me. I would like to speak hard and hateful of her. I want to fill my mouth with evil names that are not her name. When I am far from here, I feel none of it. I think only of the best of times, for my first memories are not of my mother, Hiram, they are of her. She was speaking now of Helen Briggs, and it was as I assumed. It is a kind of trauma which I know well, a particular burden of all who labored on the inside. The training begins for us as children. We are told to love them, to hear nothing for any color, to see them as we would see any other mate. We grow together. Their manner changes. They are weaned on the religion of society, and soon come a day when we are all told not just to love them, but to serve them. You know this well, or perhaps you do not. There was always a rebel in your eyes, and from the day you spoke intelligently, I sensed that you knew you had been delivered into a den of deceivers. So perhaps you guarded yourself against such dark revelations. I pray that you did, for I will tell you that the hurt extending out from that day when your brother crosses over, when your sister regards you as an intelligent mule, it is a hurt that does not die. She was an onlyist, and before she left for the Institute, I was the most she knew of sisterhood. Our games carried us off. We made ourselves up as grand ladies would in the grand dresses. She loved my hair. Are you hearing this? She loved my hair. We would race together through the fields. Once I ran blind, tumbled across the root and rolled right into the briars. I must have yelled to the devil and back, but she was right there for me. She gathered me up and got me to the home place. I am so powerfully remembered to her, Hiram. And when I see the briars, I don't feel no pain, for I am thinking only of her love. She said this looking straight at the road, and though her memories would carry great feeling, her face was a mask of stone. I am telling you that we were us before we were him. We were something to each other, and now all of that is smoke. The man she loved wanted me, and by my figuring, this was for the best, for I knew that under him, I would never fall to savagery. It was not for any love of me, Hiram. I have never been loved by any man. It was for him, for the light in his eyes, which must always be his own. And so I lost my Helen. And when I am with him, I say the blazes to all my protections. I hate her, for I can only but wonder how she could not know what he was, why she had ever chose him. I lost her, but still in all, I have watched her at some distance, hidden behind the trees. She is as lovely as ever. The high woman of society I always knew her to be. I have watched her and lived through her. For my part must be different. I am something like a prisoner upon a distant island, and that is the best part of it. Someday I will be old, and all my protections shall be gone, and I know what comes next. She stopped there, and we rode along in the silence of the season, and too I thought of Maynard and the means by which I too was made. And then I thought of the end which she now foresaw. There must be some other hope, some other way. Do you think I am remembered to her? Asked Sophia. Do you think she ever thinks back with a light in her heart? Likely that's the problem, I said. He'll never let me loose, she said, as though declaring an answer before the monstrous Sphinx. No, I said, never. He will use me up, and then he'll send me out to the country, to some other place from where I can never return, from where I can never make trouble for his society wife. Then he'll take another young colored girl for his fancy. She shook her head. We ain't nothing but jewelry to them. The land is dying all around them. They don't need us, but they can't see it any other way. I have always known this, but I am getting older, Hiram, and knowing something is a far measure from truly seeing it. Take some time, I said. You gotta get some age on your bones. You ever wonder about the rest of your life, she said? And more about children, maybe, about any life that might be out there for you. Lately, I said, all the time. But I can't even think about children. I'm still trying to till my own plot. I think about them all the time, she said. I feel the need inside me, but I won't bring no child into this. There ain't no law here. Hiram, you once said goodbye to me. I had seen it over you in the gathering days, and when you came to say goodbye, I thought you might want to say something more, even if you did not know how. I remember, I said. And then you met the goose. And I can't make no sense of how you came out, salty vessel or whatever, but you did come out. I was with you all them days by your bedside. And I thought, if you came up out of that, it must have some meaning. A man cannot peer into his grave and then look upon the world the same. What you felt before cannot be as it was. I told myself that I had kept all this quiet, that I had masked myself to everyone. Perhaps to my brother, perhaps to my father. But I know now that I wanted Sophia to know. It cannot be denied. It was in my brooding manner. It was in what I did not say. I communicated freedom by double speech and furtive glance. I did it sidelong, for one such as myself could not simply say, run with me, live with me, love me. I did it because I could not fully trust anyone, because I imagined her selling my story. I imagined my father and then Rollin. But now she had spoken and was in it too. I had taken one feeble and fearful step as the yearling mastering his walk. She had seen it and picked up the full march. Her life was in these words which she so freely gave to me. I know what you were speaking of, I said. I'm speaking of facts, she said. You are speaking of goodbye, I said, and to where? How could we live in any way out there? She placed a hand on my arm and said, how can you come about the goose and in any way still live here? I looked straight at the road. I dared not look into her eyes for fear that right then I would turn the chase off into unknown country. I am seeking facts, she said. I already talked to Thena, and we now know that we must have it. You can't even name it, I said. But I can name this and every kind of life that will come after, she said. You could come, Hiram. You are read and know things far past the farm and the goose. You must have some need of it. You must have found yourself dreaming of it, waking up now and again, gripped it. You must have some wanting to know all that we might become out from under here. I have wondered all of that lately, but it was just wonder, a religion with no Bible, a feeling unmoored from philosophy. We reached the opening at the end of the farm, but we did not travel down the main road. Instead, we drove down through a side path. We rested our horse at an opening, and there, with only the silence between us, then a well-dressed tasker waited for us. He nodded, walked back, and returned. He motioned for Sophia. She stepped out the chase, and looking upon her, I saw the great weight of all of it. I saw the task. I went back for the next morning. On the ride back, I wondered if she had been taken in on some design. Phantoms flitted before me like twilight moths, and for a moment, I saw them all in concert together. Hal, Nathaniel, Corinne, Sophia, and even Maynard, who did not die, arose out of the icy teeth of the goose, detailing the roster of my sins. But I was all of a romantic, and all my suspicions fled me when I saw her walking that path, her eyes brewing anger and misery. We rode back together, quiet for most of the ride. But just before we approached the farm, she said in a low voice, I got to get out, Howard. I will not be an old woman down in the coffin. I will not bring children to this. There ain't no society here, no rules, no prohibition. They took it all away. There ain't nothing left. I've got to get out. Right, I said. Then let's get out. A few nights later, I came back and sat with Thena for supper. Sophia was feeling ill. This worried me, for I feared for her condition when time came for us to make the trip. But Thena believed it was just a passing fever. After supper, we walked down into the village so that we might talk of the things that must be furthered but still stood monumental in our minds. One notion remained with me. Why now? I had known them all my life and figured them for the kind that managed their particular plot as best they could. We would be on the farm forever. That was our lot. I have said that my own sense of ruin self sent me to flight, and I believe it as such. But why did I truly run? Was it manly reclamation, the pursuit of my moral destiny? Or is this the story I now fashion to cover that I ran as a coward, as a criminal, to escape the justice of my brother's death? Whatever my reasonings, I had no such approximation for Sophia and Dana. You think I'm too old for the renegade, said Dana. I ain't saying that. But that's your thinking, ain't it? My thinking is that you were putting most of your life here. And I have known you, and I've known Sophia to manage this as best you could. Why? With your roots dug so deep here, why would you fly off now? I could put that same inquiry to you, she said. You well could. And I will tell you that I have come to see that I am better than this. That there should be more of my life than holding another man's coat, no matter what his title. And with that said, I am left with my original inquiry. It was late spring, and the days were now long, and the sun hung forever in the sky, and spots of yellow cut through the trees and shined on the ponds. Well, I can't speak for Sophia, said Dana, but I will say for me, it is as you have put it. It is on my deep roots. I have never been the most far-thinking of folks, but the last of my days are now upon me, and with them have come a revelation of chaos. Maynard is dead. I got no notion for what sort of power might come to the farm once Howard is gone. The way Howard has lived upon his passions, they might like to divide up the whole estate among God knows whoever. I am too old for Mississippi High. I am much too old for Tennessee. If I must die far from home, I would very much like to die on my own accord. I would like to die knowing my only family and any such family following will die the same. As you have said, I have spent the most of my days in slavery, and I will now wager the last of them on that renegade. Hearing these words lifted me. I felt that maybe I had undersold Dana. I had thought her a woman of some wisdoms, but no more than a slave's courage. I was young. I trusted in people who had not yet earned it, and still believed that courage must be manful. I don't know, she said. A few years back, you would have fixed me right. I then thought we had ourselves a nice life. I had it in my head that there was more than a great many colors might ever see. As long as I had my Sophia, and for as long as I had you, I thought that might make for enough. And now I asked, and now I am not sure that I shall even have that. And I want more anyways. I want more from my Sophia. I want her in her own big house, in a far place, with a small lot. And through that lot, I want a running stream which shall carry off all of our past troubles. And I want a man with her, such as you. My heart pulled up right there, and I felt great rage rolling through my bones. We have always known this, I am sure, though in these times, we must hide our eyes. Well, we have it all now. I do believe this, the knowledge, the heart, and very soon the night. And so is freedom then, I said. Freedom, she said. I am approaching my evening years. There is not much of me left, and I find that what remains is reckless for my Sophia, and I feel the spirit of my father rising up in me like a new moon. She came back to me soft, fitted to be a white woman's plaything, but I have worked on her. Mended or ridded, I said. No more treatment, no more in between. Die young, or die not at all. Dana spoke of the power of family, and against that power stood demon slavery. You know the evils well, the thievery of one man's labor to advantage another, the torture of the 7 and 9, the chains, but highest among all the evils is this: demon slavery is war against the power of family. All the quality in their finery and garments, in their royal culture and great words, in their prominent Bibles and constant prayers, are but riling hounds in costume. They are the slave catchers. They are the orphan makers. They are the foreman in the charnel factory. They are the sword dividing father from daughter and mother from son. And they do this not for Christian principle, but for profit. And what are we without family? What of our traditions, our culture, our stories? A man peers into the waters and sees himself and all his generations and all his failings and all his accomplishments. He sees his legacy. But demon slavery stalks the land like drought, parching rivers and draining streams. The generations are scattered and the stories are lost into our very selves. I had seen the portraits in the big house painting the lineage of my father's father back to the time of America's founding. And where was my mother's father? What deeds had been done in his name and his father's name before they were overawed by demon slavery? Hate upon them, say I. War upon those who will bring war to me and all my generations. May I ever answer their sword with an axe. May I ever move by the light of conduction. I do this for my people, for Honus and Conway, for Sheila and Clay, for Vina and Peter. I do this for Thena and Sophia, for my mother. And at this present hour, I do this for you. Thank you. One of the weird things is like when you write, it's like abstract for you, and you don't actually feel it. Like you feel yourself like trying to conjure something up, and then when you read it, it's like, oh shit, this happened. Like you actually, because when you write, you're trying to con the reader, right? You know, believing it happened. Oh my God, I think just happened. You know. So I've been, working on that since, like I said, since 2009. Hopefully, it'll be done. Really so bad, I got a deadline now. This year, and it'll actually finally see the light of day. I know a lot of you came here, or maybe not. Maybe I'm seeing this wrong, but my thought is that a lot of you probably came here to hear about Between the World and Me and to see Between the World and Me. And I really wanted to read from that piece, which is in progress, because I want, and I said this, I want to communicate to the writers in the room. And I want you to understand that it's always in process. It's always in progress. And there's a way when you write a book, if you're fortunate enough to write a book. First of all, you're fortunate enough to write a book. Let's start there. Which is hard enough. But if you're fortunate enough to write a book that receives a degree of praise, that sparks debate, that has an entire exterior life, beyond the actual writing of the book, you can get lost in that exterior life. And you can forget who you are as a writer. And you can think that you're a part of that debate, that you're supposed to be out there. And the joy for me at the end of the day, and I always have to remind myself, it's constant work. I'm saying this to you, but I have to say it to myself too. The joy for me at the end of the day is when I go back to that page, when I sit back down, and when I go to work on what's next that nobody else is seeing. That's the most important thing. I hope you young folks, and some of you I'm sure are going to write books like that go out and do that. I hope you young folks, no matter what your fate is as writers, that you hold that close and you remember that. I'm going to take a few questions, right? That's what I'm doing. Oh, okay. I don't have one of it. Was I supposed to have one? I thought they were letting us questions.
Okay, we just wrote it out. Can we ask questions? Get them out? Yeah. All right. Long-time listener, first time.
Wait, hold on, one second. Before you start, you're fine too. It's not about you. I have one rule because I want to get to as many questions as I possibly can. You can't stand up and defend your dissertation. It's not for me. I would love to hear you defend your dissertation. I'm sure it's going to be interesting. But the longer you take, the less questions. The less questions you get. So just be kind to other people in the workplace, okay? All right.
So I was surprised to hear you read fiction, and I'm reminded how Tim O'Brien is famous for saying sometimes storytelling truth is truer than happening truth. And so I'm curious, after having all this experience with nonfiction and success and going back to fiction, if that resonates at all with you in terms of why you're so drawn to going back to the novel.
I just think certain stories have to be told certain ways. And it was funny because it kind of comes out of that nonfiction. I was at a period of my life where to be honest, like after I finished The Beautiful Struggle, my agent and my editor, they were like, you really should think about fiction, given how this is written. Like, you should give some thought to this. So I was not really giving serious thought, but I had gone through a period where I was kind of writing about the Civil War in a nonfiction sort of way, and it started to like move me. And I got like stories that started to come to me. And at first it really was more voices than stories more than anything. And I started like writing that down, and I didn't even have a narrative at the time. And I wrote like a good 25,000, 30,000 words before it, pulled into something else. I couldn't record that as nonfiction, obviously. So I think certain things are appropriate for certain things. It's just a tool. It's just a tool. And I think I got quite a bit of work ahead of me, to get, I practiced nonfiction for 20 years, And so to get to that level, even close to that level with fiction, it's daunting. It is going to be daunting. Yes?
Probably get discussed a lot, but what advice do you have for young aspiring journalists?
Read, write, report, rinse, repeat, over and over again. There's no way, I got a buddy, he used to tell this story about Miles Davis. I don't know if you remember this story. Renegade used to tell this story. And I guess Miles Davis went on 60 Minutes at one point, and he was being interviewed, and guys said, Miles, you're incredible, you're a great, musician, revolutionary in the field of jazz. How did you get so good? And Miles looked at him and he said, practice, man, practice. In fact, I should be practicing right now. He got up and he left. And that's what it is. It really is just, you have to keep doing it over and over and over and over and over. You have to figure out what you want to do, like what kind of journalism you want to do, and then you have to repeatedly do it over and over and over again. That really, really is the only way to get good. There's no shortcuts, there's no magic, there's no anything. You gotta, read a ton. When I was coming up and I knew like what kind of I wanted to do what they call long form, that's what they call it today. It wasn't called that when I was a kid, but I've got a ton of New Yorkers. I just would gorge New Yorkers, and then I would go try to do what they were doing. And I did it poorly most of the time. But that's the getting better. You know what I mean? Like that's the process. You just fail over and over and over and over and over and over and over again for like 20 years. The last really. From where I am in my career. And even when you get to that point, you're still not quite where you feel you should be. There still should be that edge. I wanted it to be this. I wanted it to, I missed that. It didn't quite come out like that. It's just like you got music in your head, right? Your job as a journalist, as a writer, is to bring that music out so the world can hear it and so it can sound as beautiful to them as it sounds to you. And the only way to do that is just practice. It's just, straight repetition. It's simple. It's really, really simple, but not very easy. Yes, sir.
When you're in the writing process, maybe especially with fiction work, do you read what you have in the process out loud so you can hear it in a voice around you?
Yeah, for everything. From... Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Because that's why, it goes back to what I was saying before, you want people to feel it. There should be an emotional response to what you're doing. It's not enough to just be right. Which I think a lot of journalism seeks to do. It just seeks to communication or report something out. But I want people to be disturbed. Like the literature I love disturbs me. I want them to, to feel that. Yes.
I want to say thank you so much for sharing your gift with everyone. And could you share with the audience, you ever had a time when you wanted to give up? What you did or what you went to, where you went to in your mind, how to push forward, and the advice for people in the field, how they can push forward when they have that roadblock.
Yeah, I don't know how helpful this would be. I'll tell you, I'll answer that question, but it probably might not be too long. One of the things that happens is you get some acclaim for one thing. People think you have something to say to the world, but you might not. You might actually not. You might have had all you have to say was in that book. Was that show Fix My Life for y'all? Ain't like that. Fix My Life. No. Because for me, and I'll just be straight about this, what happened was, I had a kid when I was 24 years old. That won't change your conversation about quitting. Because you can quit on yourself. I could. The way I processed it was, if it was just me that was going to suffer, fine. You know, whatever comes, you know, may. But if people are like, this kid, you know, will go hungry if you don't do X, Y, and Z, well, that changes the conversation. And then on top of that, unlike a lot of other people, I think who I knew, I just didn't have the talent for much else. I wasn't really good at anything else. This was what I was supposed to do. And either it was going to take me here or it was going to take me into a gut. I mean, but I was going to do this. Not because I was particularly courageous, not because, but I had tried other ways. It had not been very, very successful. I'd been a terrible student from the time I entered school. I didn't have options, you know, like when I was a kid, there were a lot of people who wanted to be, you know, writers. And, you know, they had the disadvantage of being good at something else. Going to law school, for instance. It's too tough. I can't make any money as a writer. I'm going to go to law school. It's too tough. I can't make any money as a writer. I'm going to go to med school. It's too tough. I'm going to get my MBA. But I wasn't going to do any of that. This was the only way. It's, you know, it's like that story about Coates. You know, you burned the ships. You know, there was no going back. It was going to be this. So I guess you got to affect that kind of desperation. Maybe hopefully not as I did. But desperation helps. I mean, I was desperate. I was desperate. I was very, very, and I am very, very hungry. You know, and I'm very sure about what I'm supposed to do. There's no, maybe I should go over here and do this. You know, no, ain't no options. This is it. So I think it's important to cut out options to the extent.
I have a question. In your book, white people have a fine role as being dreamers. But then when you speak about black people in the book, they don't have a fine role. You speak about how they struggle, and you speak about how they survive, and you speak about how black people are responsible for their bodies, and young black boys are responsible for the images of black bodies around them. What is our defined role?
I don't know. I got a defined role for white people in the book. The book is very interested in the idea of whiteness. And so the constant, without exception, maybe a couple exceptions, the constant implication is the people who believe they're white. And what I wanted to do when I said that was I wanted people to see the done part of race. That race is not a status of done thing. You declare yourself something and then you do things to other people to make that thing true. It's tough for me to say that. I mean, if you read that out of that, I don't want to, you know, quibble with your interpretation. But that's tough for me to answer as the writer because I wasn't thinking about that when I was doing it. You know, it doesn't mean that it's not true of the text. Maybe it's true the text has a defined role for white people and a defined role for black people. Maybe that's just true of the text. You know, but as the writer, that wasn't quite what I was thinking. Yes.
So when my students read Between the World and Me, and I feel like this applies to a lot of your other work too, I feel like you're taking a good hard look at problems that people aren't aware of or don't want to be aware of. And you said you hope that the word disturbs people, and they're like, yeah, we're disturbed, but now we don't know what to do. And we had a big discussion about whether that's the writer's job to figure out.
No. I mean, I want them to be moved, like I said. You know, I do beyond what I said, you know. I mean, I want them to be... It was pleasing to me to see that Between the World and Me so affected so many people. But, like, the dangerous thing about that is you can set yourself up if you get away from your own private life as a writer and you start thinking about that too much, because there's no guarantee your next book is going to do that. The next book that I'm going to have published is a nonfiction book, and it's a weird book. I mean, like the way it's set up is actually, it's just a really, really weird book, and I can't imagine who wants to read this. I'm serious. This is not like literally like not false modesty. So I just tell you, just because I don't want like you think, oh, this is weird and all this. Guys trying to be cute. I'm not. I'll tell you why. So after Between the World and Me came out, it was said to me that, listen, you wrote a lot of really serious stuff during the Obama years. Why don't you put out a compilation of all of your essays? That's what you should do, and everybody she get to see it, and I signed a contract to do that. We had about 10 or 12, decent essays. And my editor was like, okay, can you write like an intro to these and maybe a conclusion if you feel like it? And I couldn't do it. It like bored the hell out of me. Like, I was like, I'm so past this. Like, I wrote this at the point that I wrote it, and so I can't get into it. Now, there's a strong argument if I'm thinking about reaction from audience and just bullshitting my way through an introduction, and then, hey, here's, all my essays. Because people do that all the time. It's a tried true path. But as the writer, as a private, this isn't a book to me. So we came up with this other thing to do, which is really, really different. And I haven't read a book that did it this way. And I don't know that I would want to read a book that did it this way. But it excites me to do it that way. Like, I feel great. Like, it makes me feel better about my life every day. Like, when I go and do it, I feel like, I give it my 3 hours of writing, it's like, wow, that's a good day. That's a good day. That's what I need. And so, I hope people like that. You okay? Is that a sign? All right. So yeah, I guess that's it. I'll take a couple more.
A lot has been written and discussed about your work with J. Paul, and I just want to hear from you personally whether and how his work has influenced your work.
Oh, big time. Big time. I mean, Baldwin is like he is my favorite writer of nonfiction. Period. Baldwin had, and so I had this experience when I was back at Howard, and I read The Fire Next Time, and I, went to the library, checked it out, and I didn't leave the library. I sat down at the table, and I read the whole book in one sitting. And I didn't understand the book, but I was disturbed by the book. Like, the logic of it, I didn't get, but emotionally, I felt something from it. And I've held that memory for a long, long time, and I came back, actually, about a year before I went, to do Between the World and Me, and I reread that book, and I got everything. Like, I got it. And I literally called my editor, and I said, why don't people write like this anymore? And I mean that in the most specific sense. There's this piece that this woman, Christina Naring, did about nonfiction some years ago, and she was, at that point, really, like, demeaning the state of nonfiction, which is to say, people who go into creative nonfiction, they write in this very living room, interior, MFA, no disrespect. So it's like a workshop in the heat. You know what I mean? It's like, when she's making fun of this guy wrote like an essay about taking a nap. Like, and that was like the quintessential. But Baldwin was like writing about things of great and huge import to the world, but he was writing it with all the beauty you would expect to get out of an MFA program. And he would write on multiple levels. He would write on this level of personal, like, you take The Fire Next Time, this is what happened to me. Then you go to this other level and say, this is what this means about black people. And then you could be a journalist and go see Elijah Muhammad and, distill that. It is extremely difficult to anything somebody who's tried to go through those different registers effortlessly, as he did. And he would do it with like poetry. Like, it was beautiful reading. It was just absolutely incredible. And I called my editor up and I said, what the hell? Nobody's even trying to do this? Like, I understand you might want to be Baldwin, but people aren't really trying, to do this. Like, there hasn't been a book like this, like, since then. And he said, I think you can do it. He said, I think you should try. And I called my agent up, and she knew about Baldwin. And I said, well, how do people write like this? She said, well, Jimmy was one of a kind. Oh. And she said, but I think you can do it. I think you should try. And so, huge influence. Like, gigantic. You know what I mean? I think it's unfair. Nobody's going to be this generation's book. Everybody lives in their time. And everybody's a product of their time. Their beauty is a product of their time. And I would never want to, how do I put this? I don't want to be disrespectful. You know, I don't want to degrade. I don't need to take his life and say, hey, I'm here, I'm that guy. That's not, you know, what I do. I have Bob that didn't really write comic books. Guess what? That's okay, because I don't write, you know, I ain't wrote screenplays, right? Like, I'm not, like, that's a difference. That's a difference, and that's okay. That's okay. He, you know, he deserves to be who he is. You know, I've learned a lot from him. I've gotten a lot from him. You know, but I appreciate the words of Toni Morrison. You know, against somebody who actually knew James Baldwin. It's, you know, humbling, deeply humbling. Got me in a lot of trouble, but I was deeply appreciative of it and appreciative of her. But you know, at the end of the day, you got to make your own path, man. You got to be you. Thank you. Right.
And I'm like, when that light bulb went on for me, it was like, he's pretty good.
Right. Yeah, but it was like, it was like 2 years ago. It was like 2 years ago. It was a recent development. I think, no, in all honesty, I think after I published, I think probably after I got hired at the Atlantic. Because I remember I had my first big story at the Atlantic, and I got copies of it. My dad came to get me, and I said, look what I did, man. You know, and I think maybe about this, and that probably was about 2008 or so. So definitely I've been doing it for about 12 years. They were extremely supportive though. I mean, they weren't like, I don't know why you're doing this right mess. You know, but yeah, I mean, I think as anybody else would be, you're afraid for your kids, man. You're afraid for your kids. You want the best for your kids. You don't want them to get hurt. You don't want the world, to hurt them. You know, so I always understood where it was coming from. But at the same time, you know, if the kid ain't doing nothing bad, let them be. Now, they gotta find a way to make a living, which is a different conversation. You know, than what, is their passion and love. If I couldn't have made a living as a writer, I still would have been a writer. I just would have been. There's plenty of writers that couldn't make livings that were writers, so. Two more. I'll do 2 more. Right. I guess that's my 2. It's going to be kind of you 2. He just took your mic. You see that? Yeah, well, I hope it does. Yeah. No, it's, he asked me what was my intent in terms of Black Panther, and this has generally been about writing, for Marvel Comics and within the Marvel universe. It's been exciting. I mean, this is what I read as a kid. It's been awesome. It's been really, it's like going and playing with your little toys. And the most exciting thing is, God, when you get the art back, like when you write the script and then you see like what the artist did that is actually alive and it's real, it's nothing like it. It's a great thrill. And then, it's given me, just reason to work again with Yona, which has been, just been incredible. Okay, last one.
All right, so I'm teaching Between the World and Me in my class right now. I also teach at CCAC, different campus probably. But I'm from Southern Maryland. I have a different experience, and I'm teaching to a certain demographic. So my question to you is,
what is the demographic?
It's mostly Caucasian. And because I can't come from Southern Maryland, I grew up in a very different environment, right? So my question to you is, how do you approach race and talk about race in this objective lens, so I don't lose my job?
I can't help it. illnesses. I mean, you know, it's literature. It should be hot. You know what I mean? It should be dangerous. It should be a little, you know. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, you know, I just, I'm bumbling here. I have no advice for you at all. You know, I wrote the book. How can I tell you how to be objective about the book I wrote? You know? I don't know. That's kind of a down. I'm going to tell you one more. Oh, this is good, kid. This is awesome. Right. Oh, that's a great question. I'd rather repeat the question. He wanted to know what my son thought of the book. I knew what he was doing. You know, Samari has a, it's different when your dad is the actual writer, because what that means is you see writing in process in different phases. So it's not like you see Between the World and Me that's done. It's like, here, this is a book. Samari, what did you think of it? Like he saw it, I don't know, like when I had written half of it, read some of it. In fact, when the draft that was closest to what the book ultimately became, to the final draft, he wasn't in the book. It wasn't a letter. So he saw the book before it was a letter, you know, and then when I made the decision to make it a letter, to directly address my son, I asked him if that was okay with him, if he was fine with that. And then once I had done that, I handed it to him and you know, he read it and, you know, I was okay with it. But it's much more boring when you see the sausage being made. It's not as exciting. You know what I mean? Because you saw it. I mean, it was a mess, man. I knew what you. I saw you when you was banging your head against the wall. I thought you wasn't going to finish. I know who you are. You know, it's not. You're not a star. You're not special. You're not anything. You know, you're dad. And so, he hasn't had a particularly profound reaction. He's happy. I think he's happy. He's doing well. That's probably about it.